Okay. But if you guys give me a thumbs up that you're okay with these recordings of me posting it on the website and YouTube, that people can review and download these for free. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. I think I got everybody. Sean and Brian, I didn't see your guys, but I might have been just a little slow. If you don't mind giving a thumbs up.
Alan, I sent you a Slack. I'm gonna have my camera off.
Okay, Slack's not good for me right now, just because I can't, and I'm not good at monitoring chat while I'm doing this. Just so if you guys just speak up in general, like it's hard to kind of go through the slides and pay attention. I guess I can't multitask. How about that?
Gotcha. I'm here. I'm listening.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. Okay, and now I'm gonna kick off. Let's see. Yep, there we go. And launching the poll right now. These should be just quick questions. Just take a minute, and then we'll quickly go over these. Really, it's just to kind of make sure everybody's ready to, see where everybody's at with 2024, with various accounts and allocations. Everybody can see the poll, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
And just so everybody knows, these are anonymous. I don't see who's answering what, but it does tally them all up.
Is it possible to ask the group a finance question, or should we save that for later?
What's the question?
It's a general question of what I should do with extra money that I have. So I want to, I have enough in my high yield savings account for emergencies, right? And I don't know exactly what to do with like some of the excess that I have. I don't know if I should put it into a Roth IRA or if I should put it into my my Fidelity brokerage account. What do you guys think would be the next best thing to put extra money into?
Okay, I'd make sure you max out your Roth IRA. That's one of the tax advantage accounts. That's after you, in terms of my hierarchy of saving and investing, after you've got the full max match on the 401k, because that's free money, then max out, you get the ESPP, max out your Roth IRA, and then you can go back to the 401k and brokerage account like you're mentioning.
Okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I don't recommend it, but you can always pull out your Roth contributions, tax-free, no penalty. That's not, you want that money, since it's tax-free growth, you want it in there and you keep growing and growing. But just FYI, that's something a lot of people don't realize. Okay. Are people still working on the does anybody still need time on the poll?
No.
Okay, if everybody's done, I'm going to end the poll. Give me a quick, shout out if you still need it, but otherwise I'll end the poll and share results. Okay, let's go through this. Here's all the questions. So let's see. On the first question, nearly a little over half said they contribute at least 10%, but not max contributions. And 10%, that's for bias set specific. What we need to do to get the max match. Other companies may be different. 3 do not contribute. That's something we should remedy today. uh, if you can. This is free money. You're not taking, but and then 3 max out the contributions. It's this year it's 23,000 you can contribute to the 401k, and if you turn 50 or over this year, there's another $7,500 you can put in. Next one, number 2. If you don't max you set up auto increase if you don't max out the 401k. Nearly half said yes, they do. That's good. You can put it in as a percent or whatever, per. Other half said no, they don't. And somebody else says, how the heck do you do that? If somebody wants, I can walk somebody through that later. But when you go into your contributions, it's just like a little click thing, like says, set up auto increase, and you can say yes and the amount of percentage when you're in the Empower site looking at your account. They changed it a little bit, so the previous instructions I had don't make sense, but it's something I could quickly walk somebody through if needed. And we'll go ahead. What do you?
Sorry, I have a lot of questions. Is it possible to also go through maybe like what stocks would be the best to invest in for your 401k?
Let's see that. Okay, that there you're trying now. You're getting into specific advice and recommendations, which this is not. But I can let you know that for one, in the 401k, it's not individual stocks. It's accounts. And one of the things to look at, I like to buy the whole market. And so you look at, and one of the biggest determiners of your overall growth is fees. And so some of our 401k have high expense ratios, which suck because they're actively managed, and I'm kind of frustrated that we have those. But there's other ones that are more passive and they're very low expense ratios and do the same thing. So you basically have an S&P 500 fund, some small mid-cap funds, international fund, and
So
like emerging market. Yep.
Is that how you choose your funds?
Yep.
By the fee
Nope.
associated with it?
Not a fee, not fee, that's part that goes into part of it.
Oh.
That's part of it. But it's really, I want to buy the whole market, and I go a little more US centric myself, which I think most people in countries do that. There's worry about it, but of having too much in the US. But I want to buy the whole market in different segments of how much, what percentage for each, and looking at also which funds have the lowest expense ratios, but achieve the portfolio allocations that I want. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. And then, okay, next question, number 3. Have you increased your investment savings for 2024? And that's great. 10 out of 13 haven't. 3 out of 13 have not. So hopefully you have. If you haven't, I'd say just increase your 401k by 1%. If you're not already maxed out, or start saving some into a brokerage account. Okay, next question. Do you have an IRA? 4 people have a Roth IRA. 1 has a traditional. 6 have both, which is what I think most people need both, and we'll get into that because there's a backdoor Roth if your income is too high to contribute directly to a Roth. And down the road, you'll probably need both anyways, even if not for transferring, say, rolling over 401ks potentially, as you get close to near retirement into IRAs. Next one, you max fund your IRA annually. And that one went up to 7,000. 5 out of 13 said yes. Over half, 6 out of 13 said no. And 2 out of 13 said, I don't know. You should know, hopefully. And that's something you want to keep track of. Every December, that's when you'll see the new updated limits. And if you're dollar cost averaging, meaning you contribute a regular amount every month, you want to adjust that amount to what the max contributions are if you can. Yes, Matt.
I forget, can you max out your 401k and an IRA?
Absolutely. You can, and you should, if you can, if you have the, the income to be able to do that. Yes. You'll see. That's funny because Matt, that's actually the title of one of my slides coming up. Okay. Next one. Have you max funded IRA for 2023? So the beauty of the IRA is you can fund that until tax day of the following year. So you can fund that until 4/15/2024 for 2023. 401ks, other things, nope, ends at the end of the year, but those come out right from your paycheck. 3 out of 13 have funded that. 7 out of 13 have not. And so hopefully people can, like I said, after you get your max match on the 401k, the IRAs, the next bucket, that and the HSA and the SBP are the ones that I fill up most because tax-free growth is amazing.
Quick
And
question
yep.
on that. Where do you prioritize properties in this? Do you suggest for maxing out your 401k before buying property? Do you suggest I
It
guess like
depends on
where
what you're
would
talking
property?
about. That's a much longer discussion.
Okay.
But it, real estate is it's another avenue, and you buy, especially if you can buy multi-family, like
Right.
duplexes. That's the way you buy 4 of those, and you'll be financially independent. But
Right.
in Southern California, it's just not reasonable for most people. And so, most people they have way too much of their net worth in real estate, and it's not liquid. So I'm a big fan of having liquidity and having financial an independence asset, meaning cash, invested, but money, not where you have to take a loan out or,
Right.
home equity loan. But rental properties absolutely is important. We'll do a different discussion on that. But I
Okay.
consider that later. You don't have to max out the 401k, but I want you to max out your Roth. I want you to have some in your brokerage, and getting the max match on the 401k before you're looking at buying rental properties. And that's just a personal thing. Some people that's all they want to do is become a real estate maven, and all for it. But I like liquidity as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And let's see, next ones. Do you have an HSA, health savings account with a high deductible health plan? 5 out of 13 do, 8 out of 13 do not. If you're retired military, unfortunately, you cannot take advantage of an HSA because we have TRICARE. So don't even try it. Like don't get the high deductible plan in that case. It doesn't make sense. Get something better or just use TRICARE. But for those that are not retired military, and especially young, and where you don't go to the doctor much and spend very much, I was, I researched it because I wanted to get the high deductible plan and do an HSA, even though I'm retired military. But for the rest, it's possibly your best retirement savings vehicle that you can use in terms of tax advantages, and we'll get into that. For
And
next
Alan,
question,
that's a separated, not retired for like young military people. That's
correct.
okay.
Only retired. So people that separated without doing 20, and you don't have TRICARE healthcare, from the military as retirees, you're all on, just like you're doing, Christian, is get on that high deductible plan and then max out that HSA and every year. Let's see, if you have an HSA, you spend the money yearly or invest it. 3 out of 7 said they spend it all yearly. That's unfortunate. 3 out of 7 said they invest and pay out of pocket with the FSA money or their own, or out of pocket, that's the way to do it if you can. And then one person said, I spend some and invest some. That's understandable. But here's the thing, only 4% use this right. In my opinion, what you want to do is and we'll get into this, but you invest that money and you can save your receipts every year and reimburse yourself years later. But we'll go into specific slides about that. But it's just such an incredible vehicle, and the fact that you can use an FSA to cover some costs anyway, it's amazing. Okay, you have an emergency fund, yes.
Sorry, our health savings account, is there a max similar to like 401k or Roth
Yep,
IRAs either?
absolutely, and it's much lower. We'll get into that. I have
Okay.
I have a chart on there.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, you have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months worth of expenses or more, I guess. One said the at the brick and mortar bank, get it out of the brick and mortar bank. There's terrible interest rates. You can get 20 times better at a high yield savings account. 7 out of 13, over half have it. Yes, and in a high yield savings account where you're probably making 4.5 or so % right now versus point nothing at the brick and mortar Wells Fargo, Bank of America, terrible banks like that. 2 out of 13 held elsewhere. That's interesting. I'm not sure if that's maybe in a brokerage account. I would keep it in cash equivalents. That's not something you want invested. And then 3 people do not have an emergency fund. That's a priority. It goes into kind of like Warren Buffett's, quote, which I show later too, is, you only tell who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. And people don't want cash until they really need it. And so it's something I definitely recommend. When I was at military, I didn't have as much because the job was so secure, but then I built it up as I was getting closer to transitioning. But that was just my own personal thing. Okay, here's the quick agenda. I'll stop sharing that. Any questions before we go on about the poll? Any other final questions? Okay. Yep, Amex is good. I actually like Ally better, Will, because they have 10 buckets you can put in one account. So you can save for a new car maintenance, vacations, everything else.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty freaking cool. So
Yeah. What's it called?
Ally,
Ally?
ALLY. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Okay, secure. These were passed in 2022. I'm going to quickly go over this stuff because it's kind of a year old, except for some things that were changed. But it definitely updated required minimum distribution ages. And one of the cool things that came out is Roth 401ks no longer have required RMDs, which RMDs basically that's the government saying, okay, you've had this tax deferred money long enough. We want our share back, and they're start forcing you to take out money and pay the taxes on the traditional 401k. They used to do that for a Roth as well, but that changed with 2022. But they've increased the age for RMDs, which is good, but the actuarial tables have not changed. So it's going to be start getting a little higher percentage that's going to come out each year. Any questions here? And this penalty, yeah, go ahead.
What is, I don't understand what's changed, or like there was a penalty before and now there's not a penalty?
Okay, there was a 50% penalty and that's been reduced to 25. But nobody ever got the 50% penalty. So I'm actually concerned. This sounds good in theory, but if people miss their RMDs, they have, they could get penalized previously 50% of what they should have pulled out. Now it's down to 25 and you can get it down to 10%. But people basically wrote and said, hey, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And they never paid a penalty. Now I think they're probably gonna start forcing these penalties. You know what I mean? So in reality, it might be actually worse. If that makes sense.
Okay, so if you always remember to take out your RMDs, you would not be affected.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's what you need to do, is take your RMDs. But we'll go into some other things. This gives you more chances to do Roth conversions and lower that pre-tax amount so that your RMDs won't be as much as well. So, I mean, extending RMD ages is always a great thing for us. Let's see, other things, a few additional exceptions to the 10% early withdrawal penalty of 59.5. And then fortunately, they're increasing qualified charitable distributions. So those are at that age, you can contribute up to 100K right to a charity if you want, and not pay, nobody pays taxes on that. So it's a way, if you already have excess money and you're charitably minded, there's a great way to contribute to a charity and not pay and limit your own tax burden. Make sense? Okay. Anybody know who this is? Christian, you cannot answer. Hanson, you can't answer either.
I don't know.
No.
It's okay, Christian. Now you think you answered it I know you did. This is Senator Roth. So he's the reason he's the one that introduced the bill for the Roth. They initially traditional 401ks that started back in like the 70s. This Roth came out in the 90s, and he's the one that's responsible, I'd say, for the tax-free growth. And much of Secure 2.0 is kind of a Rothification of things. And we'll get to some. Let you guys just quickly see those. But as I already mentioned, no RMDs, which is huge. Congress seems to be liking Roth right now. We'll see what happens in 20 years when everybody's got all this tax-free money. They might change their mind. I don't know. They're just looking short-sighted and getting tax money now. This is kind of the big one that everybody hears about. So you can now, if you can roll unused 529 money into a Roth IRA. It's not as great as it sounds, but as you see, there's a lot of restrictions. But you can do up to $35,000 for a lifetime. But the thing is, this account has to be open at least 15 years, and it's still subject to the annual Roth limit. Like if you had a kid that's already started contributing, you can't double up the contributions and put in, 14,000 this year. You're still limited to that amount. But this is a great option, because people, it also, I think, promotes the use of the 529 as well, because a lot of people are getting scared, like, hey, what's going to happen next? Is a 4-year degree, is it even worth going for my, saving for my kid, or what's going to happen in 18 years? This gives you a better reason to continue to use this tax advantage vehicle to, for your kids. Make sense? And you can always change the beneficiary on the 529 back to yourself if you want. Okay, or Roth. I highlighted the last thing. So catch-up contributions, they did say initially that if you had above a certain highly compensated, I think it was like 140 or 150,000, I think it was 140, you had to contribute that catch-up contributions to Roth. They've pushed that out to 2026. So if you want more pre-tax and you're in the 50 plus age category, you can still you can choose whether Roth or traditional or a combination of the two. Okay. And then here's a little more. I don't think this applies to most people, but I think that one of the cool things is that so the next one, employers are allowed to match student loan payments in 401ks, which is big. So if people are trying to pay off their student loans and they're afraid they're not getting their match on the 401k, you can still get that, which is huge. That's free money. Okay, now on to the rest of the show. Okay, these are just made up these ways I think of these retirement investing vehicles. The 401k, I like to think of it as a dump truck because the limits on it are so much larger than the other vessels that are tax advantaged. This year it's $23,000 you can contribute, and then another 7,500 if you're turning 50 or over. The next one, the health savings account. This one's a quadruple tax advantaged account, and you have to have the high deductible account. I call this one the fire truck because you can use it now, but if you're wise and you have the ability, you can invest this, save all the information, reimburse yourself years later. This one grows. This comes out tax free, and you don't pay FICA taxes. It also grows tax deferred, and then if you use this money on medical expenses, there's tax-free growth as well. So it's like having the combination of a traditional and a Roth into one. So it's the absolute best tax advantage plan you can, and you can pay yourself back 20, 30, 50 years later on these. Whoops, sorry, I went too quick. IRA, which is, it's actually called an individual retirement arrangement, but everybody thinks of it as individual retirement account. These are individual, so everybody, if you're married, both spouses can have one and should have one. And Roth is, what I said makes it military grade. I think everybody should have a Roth IRA, and even if you're above the income limits, which we'll go into. But that's the all-terrain vehicle. The brokerage account, who doesn't have a brokerage account or doesn't know? Okay, good. Everybody has one. Everybody should, especially if you live Viasat, because if you're part of ESPP or get RSUs, then you automatically have a brokerage account because that's where it funnels into. But I call this the brokerage account that the tow truck, because it'll pull you. That money will pull you to the age where you can use the other money in your, tax advantage retirement accounts like 401k, IRAs. Penalty free. So use the brokerage account money to get you to 59 and a half, or rule of 55 we'll get into when you can start using your 401k money penalty free as well. But paying penalties on your money is just retarded. That's just throwing money away. So don't do it. And then Social Security. This is actually probably your best pension that people don't trust. I cut it into kind of 2/3 because everybody's afraid it's going away. Too many people are dependent on Social Security for it to go away. And I just shaved off, even if everybody, the trust fund went away, like they're talking about in 2036 or whatever, still 72 or 75% of this is funded by current workers. So it's not like it's going away. There's levers Congress can and will pull as needed. It's just, this is too big of an issue, and especially for the elderly who vote more than anybody else. It's not going away. But if you want to consider maybe 2/3 or 75%, fine. But that is inflation adjusted as well, which is great. Some pensions are not. Any questions on those? But I call that I put that as the civic because it's dependable.
Yeah, quick question, Alan.
Yep.
You said that your brokerage account funds should get you to 59 and a half?
Yeah, it's a way. That's why I called it the tow truck. So that's why to me it's important to kind of fund the brokerage account, because there's no penalties, right? All you do is pay capital gains taxes on the money in a brokerage account. It's like a savings account, but where you can invest in equities, fixed income, bonds, etc. And so you can take that money at any time. That's what I used for my house down payment, was money out of brokerage account.
Oh, so you actually use yours. Okay. I don't touch mine. I just leave it in there to
Yep. And that's great, but you have that capability when you need to,
Right.
So and that way, some people think they have to, if you want to retire early, the brokerage account is a great way to fund those early retirement years, and not not have to do either a SEP or these other, or take penalties. Too many people just have too much of their money, all their net worth, locked up either in their house or in their 401k, where they can't touch it without penalties until late.
So you used it to, you said, put a down payment on your house?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I did the same. That's what I used, was money from my brokerage for down payment. And I didn't realize until I did that you don't get taxed on it, or you don't get penalized, or you don't get, sorry, you don't get penalized.
No, you don't get penalized. That's like I
Which
said,
was
it's like a
really nice.
Yeah, and that's what's important about a brokerage account, is that there's no, because it's not tax advantaged, there's no early withdrawal penalties. It's your money whenever you want to use it.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yep. Okay, the 401k, this is why I call it the dump truck. And while we said that you can contribute 23,000, that's from deferred, really under the entire umbrella, you can contribute 69,000, from profit sharing, the match, and where this really comes into, like, if you have a side business or something, especially if you are a single solopreneur, I would open up a solo 401k and you can contribute 25% of your profits into that, which lowers your tax burden. Plus you get closer to this, $69,000 limit, which if you're 50 and above, that's another 7.5k up to, nearly, $76,500 that you can put away that's tax advantaged. So that's it's, and just as we'll go into, for 401ks and similar, there's no income limits on the Roth or on any portion. If you want to contribute Roth and you make $1 million a year, you can still contribute to Roth 401k. You cannot do that directly to a Roth IRA, as we'll go into, but important to know. And you can do this as a combination, of each. If you want to, like, try to, sometimes if you know where you're at in terms of the tax bracket, you can use some traditional and some Roth to say you're in the 24, but you could be in a 32% tax bracket. That's an 8% difference. That's significant. So maybe use some traditional to keep you just down below the 32, so you're not getting that extra, and then convert that money later in your gap years, which gap years are, you retire, you don't have as much income before you have to start taking RMDs and Social Security. Sorry, I know I kind of go a little quick sometimes, but stop me if you have any questions. Okay, as mentioned, here's the 401k and what you contribute. I used an example of what at Viasat you could get as a max match, which would be 11,500, because we get 50 cents on the dollar up to, and you'd have to have a salary of 230k to get that, but anyway, that would be nice. But that gives you 34,000, and there's still another 34,500 that's available, depending on, you can't do it from salary deferral. But like I said, if there's profit sharing, if you have your own business or any of these options, there's a way to get more money in there if you have that capability. Must contribute by end of calendar year, though. Okay. Who hasn't like found like money in their pocket, like a 20 or a 10, or on the ground? Do you guys throw it away or do you keep it?
If I find a $20 bill on the ground, do I throw it away?
Yeah, you don't throw it away, do you? Well, too many people don't even get their full match by the company. Let's just, for numbers sake, for making easy numbers. Okay, let's say assume a salary of 100k, and if you're not contributing at least at Viasat 10%, you're not getting the full match. So if you only contribute 8%, that's $1,000 you just threw away. 6%, that's, add it up, that's 2,000.
Is that over a year? Or
but yeah, that's every year.
Yeah.
Every year you don't get that match. You don't, if you're not contributing it, 10%, you're just throwing free money away. Don't do it. Get the max match. That's where your first invested dollars should go. Anybody have any questions there? And I think there was a few people that didn't contribute. So hopefully if you buy a set and you update your allotments today to at least get the max match. And that's averaged over the whole year. So if you bumped it up to, since you didn't maybe miss January, if you bumped it up, it'll, and your average across the fiscal year is 10%, you get the max match. Okay. This is the great thing about ERISA. Even if you went bankrupt, they can't get your 401k money. So you could be a millionaire and go bankrupt, millionaire by the 401k and go bankrupt, and still, you're still a millionaire, even though you don't manage money well and had to go. I'm not a fan of loans or cashing out. There's penalties, and that's just, It's just terrible. So like that's the thing. Pensions worked because people couldn't spend the money ahead of time. And if you're thinking about taking a loan, I do provide some free counseling if you need. That goes into like I said, Warren Buffett's, you only learn who's been swimming naked when the tide goes out. That's very true. Okay.
I heard some advice on if you are trying to buy property, you could always take out money from your 401k and then pay yourself back.
You
What do
can,
you
but I don't,
think about that?
I'm against it.
Right.
Because, okay, if you lose your job, you get laid off,
Mhm.
you owe all that money immediately.
Oh, really? There's no grace
yes.
period?
Nope, there's no grace period. And
Oh,
if you
wow.
can't pay it back, guess what you did? You just took out a big withdrawal, and now you get to pay 10% penalty because you took it too early. Don't do it. Your 401k, save up for a house separately. That's my
Yeah.
thoughts. Somebody else, I remember mentioned this too, but I want to use leverage. Buying a house is using leverage, but you pay, especially a VA loan or just even paying 20%, you're still levered at least 80%. So it's a retirement account. Use it for retirement, and
Yeah, that
use
makes
money,
sense.
separate money for real estate. And that's diversification as well. You know what I mean? Like you got your real estate, you got your other assets. That's what you really want, is kind of the holy grail is having all of those things. Any questions? Sorry, I get a little bit passionate about some of these things, but
No, I agree with you. It was really interesting when I heard that kind of advice,
yeah.
but I didn't know if it was good or not.
I personally don't think so. Some people are super risky, and it can work out, but it's just not worth the risk when there's other avenues that are that protect your money. Okay, so here's just some like age-related rules with 401k. I quickly talk about the rule of. Did anybody want to explain what the rule of 55 is?
Isn't that if you retire or get laid off, the year you turn 55, you can start withdrawing from your 401k?
Penalty free. Yep, 55 or older. So it's not like, oh man, I'm retiring at 56. It's so the year you turn 55 and over, if you leave work, you can start using that money penalty free. And that's something, Matt, we were talking about. I mean, I think when we were in the tournament, that where let's say you started at a new company at 54 and you've only been contributing to that 401k for a year. You don't have much in there, right? That's not going to get you very far. Well, what you can do, that's where you could roll 401k from another company or like your TSP money into that 401k. And then that all counts, even though it was from a different account, different company, it's now in that company's 401k, and you can use that money to get you to, use all that money penalty free. Does that make sense? Any questions there? But that's a cool, a great little thing to know and possibly take advantage of. Okay, RMDs, required minimum distributions. Like I said, there's this is one of the things that you can cause yourself a tax bomb when you're late in retirement if you have a ton of money in your traditional 401k or traditional IRA. Both those require RMDs. And here's another thing. This is that, let's say you're married, and if your spouse passes away, now you're single. After that first year, you're in single income brackets, and so your tax bill could just shot up significantly. So that's why it's important to consider taxes and the whole having taxable, tax-free, and tax-deferred buckets, so that you can have flexibility and lifetime tax management. But these just show the years. Like I said, it used to be 72. They've updated it to 73 and 75 is years when you have to start taking RMDs. But I just put an example there of, and I did this saying, I used like, if you max out your 401k for like 30 years, that's what you get, and got an 8% rate of return. That's how much money you'd have. And so 3 million, divided by 24.6, that remained. That's $132,000 of, and traditional 401k money, traditional IRA money, when you pull it out, it's income. You have not paid taxes on it. So you pay taxes, ordinary income taxes on all that money. So you want to be able to control that and not have the IRS just determine how much tax bill you're going to have. So that's why, you know, it's important to consider these things, and when you're getting near retirement, possibly doing Roth conversions to lower the amount of pre-tax money. Too many people, especially since they, people that are a little bit older, when there was mainly just traditional, they have way too much in traditional and not enough in Roth. And but Roth conversions are how you can do that. You can minimize that, and we'll go into that. Okay, so here's options for what you can do with your 401k when you leave a company. The last one, I don't withdraw it. It's throwing money in the fire. Like, that's just stupid. Why take a 10% penalty? Depending on all these options, leaving it where it's at. If you've got, your company has a great 401k, you leave it where it's at. If you got lower cost, ETFs than other places and great options, you can just leave it there. At some point, I think you want to consolidate everything, as you're getting into retirement, just for simplicity, of course. But until that point, you change jobs in several companies. You keep it where it's at. If it's great, if it's better than your current companies, rolling into an IRA, we'll go into why I don't do that until closer to retirement. Retirement, that's when you want to do that. But that's the bumper at the bottom, because rolling into an IRA may impact your ability to do the backdoor Roth IRA conversions, which I'm a big fan of. Any questions here? Okay, now we're going into the HSA, health savings account. Here's the current updated limits for people less than 55. Unlike the other account where catch-up contributions start at 50, they start at 55. But that's how much you can contribute each year. And if you have a kid, if you're on a high deductible health plan and you've got a child under 26 that's on your healthcare plan, guess what? They can contribute separately to their own HSA. Pretty cool. And at the family limit, it's amazing. But this is, like I said, this is only 4% of the people use these correctly. What you want to do is invest these and let that money grow and grow and grow, and pay your other stuff out of pocket if you can. And then save those receipts, put it in a Google Drive or whatever. And then years later, when this is compounded and doubled 10 times, pay yourself back, reimburse yourself for all those things you paid years before. It's amazing. Like I said, comes out tax-free, grows tax deferred, and if used on medical, it's tax-free growth. If you don't, the year you turn 65, you can use it basically like a traditional IRA. You'll still pay taxes then on the growth, but people will have enough medical. You can use this to pay your Medicare premiums, etc. There's enough that you should be able to use it for medical, but you still could use it as a traditional IRA if you need it. FSA, use it or lose it. How our FSA works, even if you have an HSA, there's a flexible spending account. And we have a limited use one where even if you have an HSA, you can take money for the FSA, which comes out tax-free. So in California, you're saving, over 30%, 50% possibly. But you can use that money on medical and dental. If you don't have an HSA for like a retired military that are using it, you can use it on everything, medical, dental, and even prescription drugs, over-the-counter drug, you can use these things on. So that's something you got to figure out though. How much do I need? And because you can't, if you give up that money if you don't spend it. So it's something to really calculate what your expenses are going to be. But if you need glasses, you need contacts, etc. Some expenses you're going to have, add those up, and then take that tax-free money and use it. Any questions here?
What does the limited use FSA refer to? Like, why is it limited use?
Because you have an HSA. So our FSA for people that have a high deductible plan and are contributing to their HSA, you can only use it for dental and vision, not
Mm.
medical. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Some companies apparently do have it to where they can use it for everything. Talked with somebody from Lumen, they said that was the case. I want to look that up because I've only seen limited use cases, limited use FSAs, but anyway. Any other questions here?
Yeah, Alan, what's Viasad's contribution for 2024 for HSA?
Good question. I need that, Christian. I'll take a look at that. It wasn't it. What was it before? $500.
No, it
They
was like
gave
350, I think, for
350. Okay.
2023.
I'll take a look at wellness and get back to you on that. But it's still free money, I guess, even though it's not much. Still something. Okay. Okay, the Roth, the IRA, this is a all-terrain vehicle, requires earned income to contribute. But if you have a spouse that's retired or just doesn't work, they can have a spousal IRA and still contribute to it. So like this year, if you made $14,000, both working spouse and non-working spouse could contribute $7,000 to their IRAs. Roth IRAs, no RMDs, which is awesome. And like I said, Roth 401ks, since just now, no longer require RMDs as well. And these you can contribute up to tax day. You're welcome, Bridget. Talk to
So
you soon.
does that mean that we can only contribute up until April this year
For 2023.
for 2023? Okay.
Yep, that's the nice thing. You can contribute January 1st, 2023 through April 15th, 2024 for 2023 IRA contributions. Makes sense? You get a
Okay.
year and 4 months.
Yeah. Thank you.
401ks, it's only January 1st to December 31st. Okay, let's see. Any other questions here? Okay, we'll go into here's the important thing though, income limits. So for Roth IRAs, you cannot contribute directly to a Roth IRA if you're you see these income phase outs. The other thing is, if for anybody that's trying to use I know people that were trying to use a traditional IRA and thought they could deduct it. No, not if you're participating in a company sponsored plan. If you're contributing to the 401k, look at those. Like those limits are like half of what the Roth IRA contributions are. Why would you want that when there's the ability to do a backdoor Roth? So we'll go into that. But if you contribute to a traditional IRA and don't have a company sponsored 401k, you can deduct those taxes. There's no income limit on that, but most people fortunately do have a 401k. And that's this year's contribution limits. Last year's was $6,500, same $1,000, and those $1,000 catch-up contributions are going to be indexed for inflation now, which is a good thing.
Hey, Alan,
IRAs, yes.
when you say when you use Roth, backdoor Roth, are you referring to IRA Roth or a 401k?
IRA. So this is the backdoor Roth IRA. So if you have income that's above the limits that we just showed, here if you're single, 146, I guess greater than really 161k. What you can do is you can contribute to a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA. Then you invest it. I used to say just do it right away, but there's actually a step transaction doctrine that you could get in trouble for. And they could say, no, you're basically just contributing to a Roth IRA. Sorry, you're going to pay 6% penalty and pull that money out. So what you want to do is wait till like November, December that year, and then you convert the entire traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, and then it grows tax-free forever. You might pay a little bit of taxes. Let's say you contributed this year $7,000, and it grew 10%. Okay, that'd be $7,700 you'd have. When you convert that to Roth, you will pay taxes on the $700 gains, but then it's in the Roth account and will grow tax-free forever. Okay, So it's a small thing to pay. Like but it's worth the wait, because especially since they're increasing so many more IRS. You know, like what are they, $85 billion they're putting into more IRS agents and stuff. They're going to probably start coming after these kind of things. So it's better to be safe than sorry. The key, that bumper is important though. The key is that you have little or no money in pre-tax IRAs, because the next thing we'll go into is how the pro rata rule will screw you when you try to do backdoor Roth. So if you have, what I give an example of here, let's say you have, and this aggregates all of your traditional IRAs. It's not like you can go, well, I'm going to open up a separate traditional IRA and just contribute 7,000 and then backdoor that. Nope, IRS gets that. They aggregate all your traditional IRA money, and so in this example, if you've got, and Wesley, I'll get to you in a second. Let me just explain this. If you've got 93,000 of pre-tax money in a traditional IRA you've never paid tax on, and then this year you put in your yay after tax, $7,000, and then you want to just backdoor that 7,000. Yeah, how the IRS sees it, that all that money is it's just like cream in the coffee. It all mixes together, and then you're going to pay taxes on 93% of those dollars that you moved over. Okay, what you can do, most companies are like this too, but if you've got a bunch of traditional IRA money, or if you've rolled a 401k from another company into an IRA, you can roll that money into your company's 401k, and then especially the like say you rolled your TSP or something, roll that into your 401k, and then you don't have any money in your traditional IRA, and you can do the backdoor effectively and not pay taxes, a significant portion of taxes. Wesley, what's your question?
Yeah, have a question on like what's the best way, because I contributed to a Roth IRA before I was aware of like the limits of the income limits.
Yep.
And then I did that for both 2023 and 2024. So I'm figuring out like, and I just did it for 2024, and I'm like, oops, I didn't know that this rule was there.
Yep.
And then how?
So what you do is you go in, and this is one I'd get on the phone with you. Is it, who do you got? Schwab, Deli, Vanguard. Get on this one, something just to get on the phone with them about. What you can do is go recharacterize that money now, and then it goes into traditional. I did the same thing, by the way, years ago, and that money then is traditional. So you've prevented that potential 6% penalty and and trouble later. But then once it's back in the traditional IRA, the end of the year, you can convert it back to Roth. So
I see. So would you do, because I'm getting confused on like 2023 and 2024. Would you do both of those when I get on the phone? Would you do both of those at the same time,
at
or
the same time? Say, yep, I need to recharacterize all my contributions for 2023 and 2024 money. And just explain it to them. They've seen this many a times, so they'll know exactly what you're talking about and be like, yep, got it. And
Okay.
you'll recharacterize it to traditional, and then down the road, just backdoor that again.
And then even if you are in part of the phase out thing, you would just do all of it, because then it's like simpler.
Wait, say that again.
Like even if you did not need to recharacterize 100% of your contribution, you would still recharacterize 100%, because then you can backdoor it. Like
no, if you didn't have to, if you were in between that 146 and 161, I do the calculation, like, okay, because it's just a linear interpolation between 7,000, at $145,999.99. You can contribute all 7,000. 161,000, you can contribute 0, and it's just a linear,
you would
graph.
figure out the MAGI.
Yep,
like
I'd figure out the math and just keep because contributions are better than conversions. You have access to that money right now, so it's just better to have contributions if you can. So yes, figure that out, and but it's your MAGI, so you got to go look at your tax. Your tax last.
I have to do my tax first. Okay.
Yeah, well, you have to look at for 2020. Yeah, you need to. figure that out, and then you can, or you could just, for
Oh.
simplicity, you could just recharacterize it all and then backdoor it all later. But, you know, you could just, I mean, you just need to know what your, and now you've got your W-2s and everything. It should, so you
I
can probably figure that out right now, and then do the math. And probably I'd probably go on a little conservative. So just in case there's money, there's some, say you had some, you know, some money you're going to pay taxes on, say, you know, in your brokerage account, you might have gotten some dividends that you didn't think about. So I might go a little conservative on that, and, you know, put a little, recharacterize a little more than you think. That makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yep, you're welcome. Anybody else have any questions on that?
So if we had you mentioned earlier, if you have 401ks from a previous employer, it's better to roll it over into a Roth IRA, right? As opposed to.
No, unless that money is all Roth money. Because if you roll traditional money directly to a Roth, you're going to pay taxes on all that money that you haven't paid tax on yet.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a two-step process. You could roll Roth money to a Roth IRA, but traditional money you never want to roll directly to a Roth, because it's all about controlling that tax burden. So you want to roll that either keep it where it's at, roll it to another 401k, like your current company's 401k, or roll it to a traditional IRA. But like I said, the traditional IRA, if you roll it there, now you've got all this money. That pro rata rule is going to come back and bite you when if you try to do a backdoor Roth conversion.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
This gets a little complicated, so I know I kind of, you know, we're already kind of a little over time, so but if you have more questions, you know, let me know. I'm just trying to get through the material, and but I appreciate all the questions and the contributions you guys are providing. This is just another way that people could contribute to a Roth. So you can do in-plan conversions for a 401k. So you contribute to traditional. You could do a Roth. You could convert that money as much as you want to Roth. You'll pay taxes on it, but what it does is, let's say you had income above the Roth IRA income limit, you could contribute to traditional, which lowers your income, correct, that the IRS sees. But then you could convert that money if you wanted more Roth money, and it wouldn't count as income in terms of the Roth income limits, Roth IRA income limits. It's just, you know, this doesn't work for a lot of people, but it is one way that you can get around, get more Roth money, and contribute directly to a Roth IRA if your income falls in a certain window. Make sense? Okay, this will cover the whole Roth. If you don't have a Roth IRA, open one and put $1 in. There's these 5-year rules that you just need to get that, open that Roth IRA and get $1, and then that 5-year clock is started. We can go into 5-year clocks, but that's kind of confusing because there's a number of things, whether you're over 59.5 or less. It's kind of its own little discussion. Okay. Brokerage accounts, as I mentioned, there's no age restrictions. You pay better capital gains rates in general, except for California, which sucks. ESPP and RSUs are already in one. So you already have a brokerage account with E-Trade. Now it's what, Morgan Stanley, you know, as a Viasat employee. But that's, like I said, it's the tow truck, because that money comes out penalty free whenever you want to use it, whatever you want to use it on. You pay a lower capital gains rate instead of federal tax, you know, ordinary income rates. And this is, you know, it's just another bucket that you want to have a decent amount of money in. Okay. Some people, and I know most people on here don't, but they might have a spouse that works at state hospital like UCSD or nonprofit or something else. There's a 457, and that's really more like a income deferral. Like, so that's it, but you can contribute the same amount as you can to a 401k, do that, but you have no you can take the money and use that money whenever you want, penalty free. So it's amazing. And people that have this option, they can contribute basically double what all of us that just have a 401k can, assuming they have enough money to invest. Okay, how do I get the money out before 59 and a half? Well, you can use the Roth conversion ladder, and that's like goes into the 5-year rules. As you can't take converted money out tax and penalty free until it's been in there, it's sat in there for 5 years. So, but that's a way you can use kind of a ladder of contributing, moving money from your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA and waiting 5 years, and you can pull that money out tax and penalty free. Retire at 55 or later using the 401k rule, as we already discussed. And then there's separate but equally, SE 72T. I don't recommend this in general because you never know what's going to happen, because you bought into a certain percentage of your account each year. And that's regardless of what the economy does. So if we have a 2008 where your economy dropped, you don't want to be spending that money, but you're forced to until you at least 59 and a half. It's like 5 years or 59 and a half, whichever is longer. So anyway, it's a way to get money out, but for most people, I don't think it's the preferred option if you can be smart early and use other things. Here's what too many people, I think about taxes just this year. I don't want to pay taxes this year yet. You could be causing yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially of paying too much by not having a lifetime strategy. And some of these things are using Roth conversions. So converting some of that traditional money, paying taxes on it when you're in a lower income bracket than you are while you're making good money at your employer, and get that more tax-free growth money in that bucket. But these other, as mentioned, like if a spouse passes away, suddenly the next year you're in a single income bracket, and that's basically your money. You're still going to need almost the same amount of money as they've shown, but you're going to be taxed doubly. So Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 that lowered all our income tax brackets. We're in a relatively historically low tax brackets. January 1st, 2026, they're going to go back to what they were before, if not higher. I just circled a few things you can see, but except for the 10%, each marginal tax bracket is higher. So you're going to pay 15% instead of 12% for that money. You're going to pay then 25% instead of 22. So here's the question: hey, maybe it's smarter to put a little more in Roth right now. And if you're early in your career, I'm a big fan of Rothing it up as much as you can, because you're going to make more money as you get older and earn more. And that's when you're in a higher tax bracket. Time to probably put traditional and plan on Roth conversions later. But if you're young and you're in a low tax bracket, Roth it up, get as much in that bucket as you can, and then start going traditional as you make even higher and higher salaries. Any questions? Here's the other thing, and IRMA has IRMA's the tax, it's what we pay for Medicare, and retired military as well pay this, and it depends on what your income is, and it's a noticeable difference if you have a decent amount of income, and it's a 2-year look back on what your income was. So you can consider that almost like it's each person as well. So it's potential of another $10,000 plus of tax each year when you turn 65. Okay, as mentioned, Roth conversions to beat the RMD tax bomb. This is in the gap years. So, and what you're basically doing is you roll the 401k money to a traditional IRA and then convert a certain amount of that traditional each year to Roth. And that's where you got to be smart, know your cash flow, your income coming in, and you can basically, convert just enough to go, okay, say you want to max out the 24% tax bracket or just the 12%, you can convert just enough to where that's where your income limit is, and then do the same thing next year. And you're slowly moving, converting all this pre-tax money to tax at a low tax rate. Make sense? Okay. And this is what I'm saying. You can determine based on what your income is, what bracket you want to go to. if you're gonna have a decent income even in retirement, maybe you want to go to the top of the 24% bracket. Because that you look at how much more money you could put in. That's like 180,000 more you could convert. At only a 2% higher tax rate versus you're later getting maybe stuck in the 32 or plus percent. Okay. California is just a crazy expensive state, so that's just another. I know a lot of people do it. When you look at a good retirement calculator, just by changing the state from California to Nevada, no other numbers change. You have a 5% higher probability of success by the Monte Carlo simulation. Pretty significant. Anyway, capital gains tax rates, it's up to really 23.8%, depending on how much income you have, because we have this 3.8% net invested income tax that President Obama put into place for people that have, whether selling securities and making some gains. If their single income is over 200K or modify AGI as a married couple is over 250K. I don't know why. That's ridiculous that there's only a 50K difference, but that's how they did it to get more tax money. But any questions here? Anybody have any questions on capital gains? Like what I wrote here, there's a difference between short-term and long-term. Short-term, you're going to pay ordinary income tax higher. Don't do it. That means you sold a stock or within a year. If you hold it for a year and a day, you pay long-term capital gains, which are the lower tax rates. And so say you buy a stock for $10, 366 days later, you sell it for 15. Your capital gain is the difference there between where it's at now and what you bought it for. So 15 minus 10, $5, you'll pay tax on that, but at a better rate than the federal rates. Okay.
Now-
Yep.
Good question. For the ESPP, once we get our shares, like let's say for example, the one we got yesterday, is it 18 months to be qualified, or is
So
it 2 years or a
it's
year?
really 2 years because there's a couple of things. It's 18 months after it vests, or after you get it. It's really stupid. I don't know why that is, but that's how it is. One thing you can do, Christian, though, is to diversify better. If you've had already money in your, you've been here a couple of years and you already have money in your ESPP that you haven't. Like just yesterday when we got the new ESPP, take that amount, but take it from an older batch that's already qualified, and you will pay the better tax rates. The stuff that's already 2 years old. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I was thinking of using my older patches.
Use your older patches and use the ones that have the biggest loss.
Yeah.
Some people think that's crazy, but then that goes against your at least up to $3,000, and you can hold that any other losses over. But then you can do all sorts of things with that. So let's say you lost $3,000. Once you have the stock, all the stock is the same, right? So sell your losers when you're doing that, and then you can sell other things that are winners and capital gain harvest that. Let's say you had that and you had Microsoft stock that's done very well. You could sell the equivalent amount of gain on the Microsoft stock and then buy it right back. And then you've just increased your basis so that when you sell that later, you won't pay as much tax. Make sense? And you've evened out the losses from the Viasat stock that you sold with the gains from that. You pay zero taxes, but you increase your cost basis for that stock when you buy it back. And there's, unlike, like you can't sell a loser and then buy it back within 30 days, but you can do that with capital gain harvesting.
Right.
That was a little quick of explaining kind of an advanced topic, but
Is there a difference between the 2-year period you're talking about and I know when you go on E-Trade and you go on your ESPP and it says if you want to sell it, it says this is considered long-term and this is considered short-term. Is there a difference between that?
Yeah, and that's what you want. The long-term, and you want to make sure, because it to be long-term, in ESPP terms, they call it qualified versus disqualified versus, and so you want to make sure that it's basically 2 years from the grant date of, that you got that. Otherwise, you're going to be paid disqualified rates, which are higher taxes. But it should be correct in there that if it's long term, it should be qualified. But I have to go look at that, because for some reason I feel like I looked at it before. I'm like, wait, that's not really long term yet. That's not qualified. Because most stocks in general, everybody, unlike with every other kind of stock, if you just buy it, it's a year and a day, and it's long term, not 2 years like the ESPP. Okay, any other? I just quickly put on about Social Security and benefits. Everybody, if you haven't opened up your Social Security account, do it just for your own safety, that somebody else doesn't do it. And then we can talk later about if you guys trying to figure out how much you think you'll get in Social Security, because the calculator on there assumes that you work until 67, until normal retirement age. Okay, here's what we're talking about, like the whole, and it wouldn't be a third, who knows, but you want diversification for tax flexibility and how you really want to spend your money in your life. That's why I recommend tax deferred, the traditional accounts, a brokerage account where you just pay capital gains, and then your tax-free money, the Roth IRA. You want some in each of these buckets. Why do you want some in traditional? Because if you put everything Roth and you had a high income, you've paid too much tax throughout life. So when you're in retirement and hopefully your tax bracket's lower, that's a good time to use some of that tax, traditional money. You just don't want too much of it where you don't have control of your tax rate. But you want these other buckets too, so that you can make these large purchases. What if you bought an RV? This happened. Somebody bought a house and they ended up having to lose it. But they were heavy spenders. They took out $500K from their traditional account and paid a down payment on this house. Well, they didn't count for the taxes. They had like with the other income they had like a $400K tax bill they couldn't afford. So then what they do? They took out another $400K from their traditional, which then they had to pay. It was like a, revolving tax, bomb. You just got to be careful. But when you have this flexibility, you can use money from different pools to limit that, that tax burden you're going to have, and still make those major purchases as desired. This is what too many older people have. And that's why I say it, like all traditional and hardly any brokerage account or Roth money. And so the goal is to, do conversions and get some in the other buckets, so you have flexibility. Okay, importance of compounding. This is just an example, just showing a piece of paper is 0.05 millimeters thick, but if you do 40 folds, that's how big it is. That's the same thing about your money. The rule of 72, every time if you take the rate of return, let's say use 8% rate of return. If you divide that into 72, 8 into 72 is 9, your money will double in 9 years. And that's not without contributing anything more. So the faster you can get this money in, the better. Time is your friend. So don't wait. And then some people try to put all this money into their 529 account, but you got to take care of your retirement first. You don't want that to be your retirement. Well, some people maybe want that, but there are student loans for school. There aren't student loans, or there aren't loans for retirement. So just, make sure you're taking care of it. Okay, here's just some homework assignments for you guys. I know we're not benefits in May when we take a look at that, but since we've been talking about high deductible plans, HSAs, this might be consideration for the next year or in a couple of months. So something to think about it and determine now what your FSA amount is. Make sure you've updated your contributions. Also check that you verify your beneficiaries. Everybody should do that once a year. There's terrible stories about, say, like people that got divorced and they never updated it, and their ex gets everything. They get remarried, but it doesn't matter. So take a look at that. And that goes above, has a higher priority than trust, wills, everything, the named beneficiaries on these accounts. But anybody have any questions there about your homework? Okay, if you do, let me know. And then here's just some questions, just in general about the presentation. I hope find these useful, but if you know they are too simple, or if they're if it go through things too quick, let me know. And then there's all these resources are available on the website. And then here's topics to explore. I'm gonna start just creating some that I know are important, like estate planning and things like that, from all the CFP curriculum I already studied. But here's other topics if you guys are interested in. And if you have thoughts, put it in the Slack channel, or just send me a note. And then here's the quarterly, veteran specific topics. The next one we're doing at the end of the month will be on insurance and protection. So if you don't have umbrella insurance right now, you will by the end of the month, I'm sure, because it's so important. Okay, any other questions?
I have a question. I had to drop out for like half an hour in the middle, but
Yep.
I don't know if you covered this, but like between the high deductible plan and the other one, are the services different? Like something you have to consider? Because I happen to use my insurance a lot, and the high deductible probably is the wrong choice, but I'm not sure if that'll affect like what I'm able to get.
Well, you're going to pay more out of pocket because it's a high deductible plan. And let me see if we can go back to.
So I heard like sometimes the other plan is like it's more limited in like what services you can use it on.
You should be able to use it similarly, but you might not have. That is a good point. One thing I need to look at is, okay, if you like you probably are on the PPO plan, and for some it's probably PPO is better. Actually, it's just you have that HSA tax-free money, but you might not have the same providers. That's something I need to check. I'll ask Wellness about it as well, because and like I said, if we've got a good healthcare policy as well, where so it might, if you spend a lot in medical, the right choice might be just using the PPO and minimizing how much you pay. But if you can, and especially for people that are young, and another thing, Mike, you can alternate between these. You can go on a year on a HSA and just build up, save up that money and keep that invested, and then go back to say you're going to have a kid the next year, and you're going to have a lot more expenses. Then you can go to PPO where you have much better, more of a Cadillac service, you know what I mean, and not take as much out of pocket. But you can go back and forth on these, so that's something people don't realize either. Let me get to. Sorry, I'm trying to find. I was going to go back if you might have missed when I was talking about the HSA. I'll just pull up that.
I'm pretty familiar with the HSA.
Okay. Okay, then I won't worry about resharing. So
sure, thanks. And I'll ask insurance too. It's probably a good idea.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. Okay, let's see. I got some. Somebody asked about what retirement calculator would you recommend. Really, the best things are software. And some companies that have ones where you can see cash flow and things like that, but that's kind of tough. Any other questions or thoughts before? I know it's already a little bit late, but hopefully you guys found this useful.
Yep, I found it very useful. Thanks, Alan.
Okay, great. Well, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
thank you very much.
Yep, stop recording, and thanks everybody for showing up.